Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. It's O'Connor and Company, and it's a glorious day in America. Val Kilmer has passed away at the age of 65 years old. I know there's a lot of Val Kilmer fans out there. God bless you. If you only knew the man behind the Batman mask, I promise you, you'd be smiling. No, I don't wish death upon anyone. I'm sorry. I'm not. That's not fair. But I worked with Val Kilmer.
There's a history.
I knew Val Kilmer. There's a history here. Not the best human being, but I pray for his soul. I pray that he turned around his ways toward the end there. But yes, that's a big deal. Val Kilmer,
a big,
cultural icon who's been struggling with throat cancer for many years now. Struggling with, frankly, being a normal functioning human being, for that matter, for decades now. And he has now passed away. Val Kilmer, dead at the age of 65. Also, if you're just waking up and you want the results of the big elections that we've been watching, Republicans swept the 2 special seats in Florida, lost the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. But honestly, I think of all of the measures yesterday, all of the votes, Wisconsin passed voter ID, overwhelmingly passed voter ID. I would cynically wonder if voter ID was in place in Wisconsin, whether that Supreme Court seat would have gone the way that it did. But this is such a winning issue. And if you look at the map, the breakdown, we'll get into the details later. You look at the breakdown of the map of Wisconsin, they broke it down county by county. Every single county in Wisconsin said yes, voter ID, except for Madison, except for the liberal enclave of Madison, Wisconsin, the capital. That tells the story. That's a huge victory in the state of Wisconsin. But yes, ultimately, on the much-observed Supreme Court seat, I'd like to frame it this way. The billions of dollars from Soros and J.B. Pritzker defeated the billions of dollars from Elon Musk. There you have it.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, this was not a win for Wisconsin. This was a win for California and for Texas and from wherever the billionaires that funded that. This had nothing to do with Wisconsin. So a sad day for Wisconsin in that regard.
Yes,
but
voter ID won,
voter ID.
and that's brilliant. It's huge.
Yes.
All right. There was another dramatic scene over voting in the House of Representatives yesterday when the issue of proxy voting was put on the table, and a band of renegade Republicans defected from leadership, led by Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman from Florida, who happens to be expecting a baby, Nick LaLota of New York, Tim Burchett of Tennessee, Mike Lawler of New York, Greg Steube of Florida, Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, Kevin Kiley of California, which is disappointing.
A lot of dudes.
Max Miller and Ryan McKenzie, Max Miller of Ohio, Ryan McKenzie of Pennsylvania. They all voted with Democrats to allow for proxy voting. Now, this was framed under the context of, well, if you have a baby and if you're a new mother and if you're expecting, you should be able to work from home.
They're going to take advantage of this.
Of course. You talk about the foot in the door and the camel's nose under the tent and whatever other analogy you want to do. And also, may I say, and I know that you really want to rip on this because you were a working mom. You are a working mom. You continue to be a working mom. And I would challenge and wonder, what is the difference between having to care for a newborn and having to care for a 3-year-old?
Yeah, look, after the show, I'm getting pregnant just so I can show that you can do this. You do not need special accommodations.
Well,
this makes me actually really mad.
Let me just say, Darren Gunlock owes all of us a huge debt of gratitude, given what's going to happen after the show today.
In all seriousness, this really makes me sick. And these women were going down using their children as props, really tossing them around like hams, as Julie Kelly said in a tweet, which made me laugh.
Who was that congresswoman who had her 3-month-old in her arms while she was delivering
I love
a
that
speech?
she was out there saying, I can't do this, but she literally had her child in her arms.
Right.
So obviously, take the kid to work. Nobody's stopping you. And I know that we...
Oh, darn, we just lost Julie. But we'll try to get her back. But yeah, listen, Julie is very exercised about this. I am kind of exercised about it too. Listen, and let me just be perfectly upfront on this. I am a proponent of work from home. I am a proponent if it makes sense for the company that you work for, if it makes sense for the job that you have. To be able to work from home, I think that's a great thing for families, but it's up to the individual company to make those decisions, right? I work for a company that is not a huge fan of work from home. We try to reach accommodations on it. I try to do it whenever I can. I'm working from home because I think it's good for families, it's good for individuals, it's good for people if it makes sense. And here's the other problem. We've just gone through several weeks of the federal government demanding that federal employees who have been working from home for 5-6 years now, that they all have to change their lives, uproot, and come back to work. That's what the Trump administration has said. That's what every agency in the federal government has demanded. And now these Republicans grandstand and say, oh, but we have different rules. We should be able to do this.
I'm sorry I kicked my mic, but look, this suggests that women are these delicate flowers, that pregnancy and motherhood is somehow a disease that requires special accommodations. It doesn't. And women have been doing this for decades, working. Look, you have to balance it. It's a juggling act. There's no doubt about it. But the idea that we are going to uproot Congress and change these rules and allow for this sort of proxy voting, which we know is going to be taken advantage of by the left, in order to accommodate women. And again, it is a short period of time where you're going to be breastfeeding, or where, the baby is sort of really needs the attention of the mother in terms of physically. It really does annoy me that a number of Republicans joined this effort, which again, maybe we can say some people are very concerned, but this will be taken advantage of by the left. And it's disappointing.
Of course it will be. And I got two things. Number one, you remember when, back in the days of serious male bigotry against women in the workplace, against, serious misogyny and chauvinism. And men would say, "Wow, we got to hire women on the job." Why? And then when they get pregnant, they're going to have to want to take months and months off, and I'll never be able to have it. Or what happens? Let me be incredibly controversial. What if you're having a bad monthly cycle? And
I know.
Women have to deal with this, and men don't have to deal with it.
Well, and then
what women should be able to come up to the Speaker of the House and say, "I'm sorry, I've got really bad monthly cycle, really bad cramps. It's debilitating for me, so I should be able to work from home."
After your childbearing years, you have to go through menopause. Let me tell you, it's no fun. Okay, and so should we accommodate that?
Right.
Should we accommodate that?
It buys into every chauvinistic stereotype against women being able to be in the workplace and all the accommodations that have to be made. Let me also say this, and I'm going to go one step further than you, because you just said it only several months that you really have to be breastfeeding. I would argue, frankly, that I think that there is a very real and justifiable position to take that a child should be with his or her mother for as long as they possibly can.
Sure.
I come from a traditional mindset in raising my children, where we made sure that both parents were around our kids as much as possible. But at the very least, the mother was there during their entire childhood. And I think that is a very fair thing. If that's my position, and I go to the Speaker of the House and say, I just got elected to Congress, but I also think that I should be around my kids.
Resign.
I'm homeschooling my... Exactly.
Resign.
That's the point.
Yes.
Find a job that can accommodate that. But there are only 435 individuals who can be a member of the House of Representatives. And there are very certain specific rules with that job. And you knew those rules when you ran for office. You don't get in and change them because of your special circumstance. We have more to say about this. Proxy voting and the Republicans who turned their back on Speaker of the House Johnson and Republicans, and frankly, Donald Trump. I want to bring that up in a sec. But first, it's 5:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives, Jamie Wittens in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic.
The Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Donald Trump ran on a lot of different ideas. One of them was that it was time for federal workers to get back to work. Many of them have been working from home for 5 years. Many of these office buildings in downtown D.C. have been set nearly vacant because everyone has taken advantage of the opportunity, the legal right to work from home. He said no more, not on my watch. He came into office. He implemented that. Donald Trump took a hell of a lot of heat for that, a lot of criticism, a lot of arrows that were slung at him. He was fine. He took that. He used his political goodwill and his political clout to be able to implement that change and still take a lot of criticism. And these Republicans, Anna Paulina Luna, Nick LaLota, Tim Burchett, Mike Lawler, Greg Steube, Jeff Van Drew, Kevin Kiley, Max Miller, Ryan McKenzie, they just threw their president and the leader of their party under the bus because they said, Nope, different rules for all you federal employees. Screw you. Don't you know who I am? I'm a freaking congressman. So I say we can work from home.
I get special rules. This is always the way it is in Congress. Let me tell you something. I worked up on Congress for a decade. Okay, there is a staffer that'll hold your baby while you go and vote. There is a staffer who will sit there if you have a baby in the playpen in your office. This idea, because again, I think it's important to say that they were acting like women are at such a massive disadvantage if they get pregnant and have a baby when they're in office. You said it, Larry. Fine. You don't want to be separated from your baby for 15 minutes while you go and vote? Fine. Resign. There's always that option. Okay. But again, it really bothers me. You know what? I actually chose to have a stay-at-home job from the instant I had kids.
Yeah,
okay.
me too.
You too, right? I was never separated from my kids. Essentially, I worked while I was a mom. Okay. And I worked from home. I've always been here with my kids. My kids didn't go to daycare. Although some people that are very good parents have to make that decision, and it's okay. Okay. But I'm just saying, of all people, congresswomen, they have choices. And the idea that now the entire body of Congress has to accommodate women for being pregnant, it infantilizes women. It makes us look, that whole thing like whatever a man can do, a woman can do better. No. Apparently a woman needs all this help and all these accommodations to be able to do this. It really is troubling to me. And again, it is one of these things that makes motherhood seem insurmountable. It makes it seem like it's so difficult.
It makes it look like a burden. It makes it look like an affliction.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. A disease.
And here's again, not only was Donald Trump betrayed with this, think about that. Think if you're Trump and you had to withstand, a week and a half, 2 weeks of blistering media commentary about how unfeeling you are, how insensitive you are, how out of touch you are, that you had to force the federal workers back to the workplace. And you withstood it, you dealt with it, and you kept your head down, and you kept plowing for it. Well, then what about Speaker Mike Johnson? Speaker Mike Johnson has had at least two incredibly critical votes so far, with the budget and with the continuing resolution, and he's only got a margin of error of like 2 or 3 votes. It is incredibly tight. Elise Stefanik just had to give up her ability to be the ambassador to the United Nations, also a blow to Donald Trump, who wanted her as that ambassador, so she could stay and maintain the majority in the House. Speaker Johnson knows full well how critically important it is for Republicans, especially Congresswoman Luna, who is expecting, Kat Kamek, who is also now expecting, that's going to affect his majority. But he was still willing to stand on principle and say, this may even affect my margins in the House with this majority, but I still stand on this rule. I want to stand on this principle. And these Republicans said, screw you, Mike Johnson. Screw you, leadership. I'll vote with the Democrats. It's much bigger.
It's outrageous.
It's bigger, frankly, than the rule and the proxy vote and work from home for expected mothers. Julie, what is the logical, principled stance that we are now to take against a Democrat member of the House of Representatives who says, you know what, I'm dealing with depression and I can't be around people right now, but I still want to do my job.
It is so myopic. This for Anna Paulina Luna to get up there and Tim Burchett and all these other Republicans and act like, oh yes, pregnancy is the only thing they're going to use this for. It is going to be abused beyond belief. I mean, and also let's not forget what the left did with Biden. This guy had mashed potatoes for brains, and the entire Democrat Party and the entire establishment media ignored it and hid it and covered it up. Think about Feinstein, who was wheeled in for months, probably more than that. I think more like a year to cast her votes. Think of how they're going to take advantage of this with elderly members.
I'll tell you exactly how they're going to take advantage of this. Just listen to the Democrat that these Republicans just joined with and fought with, Brittany Peterson, while holding her baby.
And Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to this rule, which restricts moms and dads from doing their jobs after welcoming a new child. Like so many of our colleagues, it's one of my greatest honors to be a mom. I have 2 little boys, a son named Davis, who's 5, and my little guy here, Sam, who's now 9 weeks old. It's also one of my greatest.
Do we think she was squeezing the baby's foot there to make him coo, to make him make noises? You think there was, or do you think there's a little tape recorder attached to him that sort of plays this little sound, a little MP3 player? They're going to use it. They're going to exploit it. And again, my question to Congresswoman Luna, she says that she deserves this because she's expecting. Okay, fine. I guarantee you, one of your members of Congress is going to have a death in the family, and it's going to grieve them, and it's going to strike them, and they're going to feel depressed, and they're not going to want to mix around with people. They're not going to want to be around big crowds. They're not going to want to be in an office setting. What is your principled argument to that member of Congress who says, nope, you got to come in and show up for work? You start with pregnancy, and it just cascades from there.
Don't forget what Anna Paula Luna did and these other members. This is really unfortunate.
523, thanks to advances in step.
Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 536. Coming up at 6:35, we'll talk to Cal Thomas. At 7:05, David Sentner, who has a new podcast debuting next week. It's called Erased. It's about victims of cancel culture. I like that idea. 7:35, Maryland Senator Justin Reedy is going to tell us exactly what the Democrats got away with in Annapolis. And then at 8:35, E.J. Antoni of Heritage talk about the economic theories behind today's anticipated announcement regarding tariffs by President Trump. That is all coming up later in the program. I'm Larry O'Connor. Julie Gunlock, we were so fired up, we just shot right out of the gate there like a cannon. Julie, you just were ready to go after that Congresswoman Luna. It really is a disappointing turn of events in the Republican caucus here that they maneuvered this. And here's the other aspect of this, by the way, which is very un-Republican. It looks very selfish. This is
totally narcissistic. Yes, absolutely.
Right? This is me and the situation I'm going through, and we should change the rules to make me happy and to take care of me. And this, when you're part of a caucus, when you're part of the majority in the House, you're supposed to work together for the betterment of the cause.
Ultimately, it is enormously disrespectful of the institution itself. When you ran, you knew what this job was. Yep. If you get pregnant and you have my main thing is to say, this idea that like pregnancy and motherhood are like the hardest thing. I mean, people have been doing it since the dawn of man. I agree that pregnancy and motherhood can be difficult, but it's possible, and you don't need all these special accommodations. We treat motherhood and pregnancy like a disease, and it shouldn't be treated that way. But again, if it is too hard for you, resign. Or do not seek to change the entire institution.
And I would even frame it in a way that it's not a question of being too hard. If you as a mother think that it's best for your child to be connected to that baby for as long as you possibly can, great. Congress isn't for you. This undermines every single woman of childbearing years who will be running for Congress.
Yep, it says that we need all this special accommodation.
And as they're running for office, their opponent is going to say, well, you're going to show up every day? What happens if you have a baby? And that's the kind of thing that would have been written off as male chauvinism and sexist. But now it's fair. It's a fair question. It's completely fair game.
Yeah. Are you going to change the rules of this corporation, of this business? Are you going to change it the way in which we have done business because you need special rules? That's what's being conveyed here.
Let's get you up to speed on the elections yesterday. As we mentioned earlier, Florida, the 1st and 6th district, these were the seats held by Representative Matt Gaetz and Michael Walsh, respectively. They have both stayed in Republican hands. Now, there was a lot of attention on that 6th district. State Senator Randy Fine was the Republican candidate. Josh Wheel, a teacher and incredibly liberal progressive Democrat, was the candidate. Fine ended up winning by, it looks like about 10 points there. But what's important is the Democrats pumped millions of dollars into this race trying to make a dent. And they're going to claim victory. Well, it was a district that Walsh won by 30 points, that Trump won by 30 points. So the fact that the Republican it's a special election. And as my friend Sean Spicer always likes to say, special elections are special. It's not typical. It's not your usual thing. And by the way, this fine guy, it seems to be a fine man, if I can say, and I didn't mean the pun, but he supported Ron DeSantis early on in the primary process. So if this is a referendum on Trump's moxie. Well, maybe it's not quite as simple as the Democrats and the media are going to want you to make you think it is. But the bottom line is winning, and the Republicans won those seats. The Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin did end up going to the liberal Susan Crawford, who was backed with millions of dollars by J.B. Pritzker and George Soros. 77% of her campaign funding came from outside the state of Wisconsin.
Wow.
The numbers were vastly polarized on the other side of the direction for the Republican Brad Schimmel. His highest profile backer, though, was from Elon Musk. So, of course, everybody in cable news right now is making this and telling the narrative that this is a loss for Elon Musk. They're such simpletons. And
didn't Elon Musk kind of get involved late?
Yes,
correct. I mean,
very
Soros
late.
and Pritzker,
Like literally in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, Soros and Pritzker were on this early on, but Musk sort of rode in at the last minute. So, not exactly a long-term investment for Musk.
To me, the most important race yesterday was a ballot measure in Wisconsin on voter ID, and it won overwhelmingly. Overwhelmingly, it won in Wisconsin, 63 to 36%. It is such a winning issue for Republicans, and they should continue to push this at every level. And one quick reminder here of who Randy Fine. So Randy Fine is now the member of Congress. Randy Fine's coming to town. We are excited that Randy Fine is coming to town. He won the 10th district. That includes Daytona Beach. I think it includes Jacksonville as well. A lot of military votes. Randy Fine had been in the state Senate for Florida, and his latest claim to fame, you've heard him on this program, when they had a bunch of drag queens show up to testify at a committee hearing. And
actually dressed in drag.
Yeah. And Randy Fine was the Republican chairman of the committee, and this is what it sounded like.
Your name?
Hi, Randy. I believe you know me. I'm Erica Peace.
I have no idea who you are. So, Erica,
pageantry.
Erica PC.
Drag,
Is that PC's your legal name? We have to put it in here.
Yes.
That's your legal name? Okay.
Thank you.
Erica PC, you're recognized.
Yeah. So I am from Tampa, Florida. I'm here to school you again.
All right, you're done. Let's go next.
Really?
Yep. Come on, next.
Oh.
Come on, let's go. Whoever. Got a lot to do. No time for nonsense.
No time for nonsense. Randy, no time for nonsense Fine is coming to Washington, D.C., and we're excited about that because that's the kind of attitude this town needs. It's 5:43.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Yeah, we do make sense of the news here, but I got to be honest with you, Julie Gunlock, I'm having trouble making sense of this story. I don't quite understand it. Maybe you can help me here. The headline is from the New York Post. It's so confusing. I'm sorry. This is really bad of me. I should be more prepared. I'm a professional broadcaster in the news talk format of radio on WMAL in Washington, D.C. Why am I so confused by this story? I should understand it. I should have researched it further. Help me, Julie. Are you ready? Here it is. New York Post. Hunter Biden to be permanently stripped of D.C. law license. Why? Why? What did he do? Hunter Biden is unfit to practice law in Washington, D.C.?
Why are they attacking Hunter Biden?
You know what?
He's such a good guy.
He's the smartest man I ever met.
I mean, think of how it takes a big brain to get away with the crimes that he has gotten away with over and over and over again.
Hold on. You know what? So I clicked on the link and I got a more explicit headline. Maybe there's a clue here in the full headline at the New York Post. Let me read that. Convicted felon Hunter Biden to be permanently stripped of D.C. license to practice law. Again, hold on a minute. We are raising the bar super high here in Washington, D.C. on whether you're eligible to be a lawyer or not. So one felony conviction and suddenly you can't be a lawyer in Washington, D.C.? What the? Oh, you Puritans. Yeah, the next thing you know, it's going to be Handmaid's Tale around here. Hunter Biden will be permanently stripped of his ability to practice law in the nation's capital after agreeing to a disciplinary agency's disbarment recommendation. So he agreed to it. Wow, what a sacrifice he's making. He's a good man. He's a good man.
How will he make money, Larry? I mean, my goodness.
Well, he is an artist.
Oh, that's right.
He's used to struggling for his art.
That's right.
So imagine if you're watching CNN on a regular basis, or God forbid, what if you listen to NPR as your radio, information source on a regular basis, and suddenly you're hearing this story. Well, Hunter Biden is being stripped of his life. Wait a second, Joe Biden's son can't practice law. Why? What did he do? At this point in your absorption of news from NPR over the past 10 years, you will have absolutely no basis or foundation to understand what kind of trouble Hunter Biden is in, because they haven't told you. They have said nothing to you about it.
You're absolutely right. There are whole swaths of this country that don't know anything about the laptop scandal. They don't understand the connection to the wider Biden family. They don't understand the payouts to the uncle and the sister-in-law and the sister and all this stuff. I mean, nothing. I always think about the Hunter Biden laptop, and I always think about his sister's diary, which it was another story that was so scandalous. I mean, really juicy gossip, and not even that was covered. Yeah,
and just to be clear, yes, Hunter Biden's sister's diary, but more explicitly and more, I think, properly described as Joe Biden's daughter's diary. Yes. The chairman, the CEO of NPR, by the way, now desperately trying to keep her funding and her job, Ms. Maher, has now admitted publicly that maybe they should have covered the Hunter Biden laptop a little more aggressively and maybe a little sooner. Sooner like when the story actually broke.
Right. This is as close, folks. This is as close as you're going to get to an apology. Okay, this is it.
And let's not
enjoy it.
Let's not forget Media Research Center, led by Brent Bozell. They did the most important survey of voters about 7 months after the 2020 election. And they said, and after that point in the survey, they said, this is information about Hunter Biden. Now it's starting to get reported because the election's been over for half a year. Had you known in November, these are they surveyed Biden voters. Who'd you vote for in the election? Joe Biden. Okay, great. Second question: have you heard about the Hunter Biden laptop story? Yeah, now I have. Okay, third question: if you had known then what you know now, would you have voted for Joe Biden? Overwhelming majority said they would not have. This was election interference. And just now you're going to hear the reports that Hunter Biden will be stripped of his law license in Washington, D.C. Other Hunter Biden news, by the way, his business partner, Devin Archer, who actually had to be convicted, felt the brunt of this, the crimes that were committed and actually had to pay the price. He's going to get a full pardon. As Donald Trump said, he was screwed. I'm quoting the president there. He's giving him a full pardon because he was a whistleblower, and so they decided to go after him. Other whistleblowers, by the way, in the Hunter Biden affair, the IRS whistleblowers, these are two very brave men, Gary Shipley and Joe Ziegler, who stepped forward to blow the whistle on how the Justice Department and Merrick Garland, under the direct leadership of Joe Biden, were giving a sweetheart deal to Hunter Biden. They were ready to give him that plea deal, you'll remember, in 2023. He was going to get off scot-free, basically, with a slap on the wrist. And these IRS investigators said, hold on, they wouldn't let us actually pursue the crimes here. They told us to stand down because he was the president's son. They were ostracized. They
smeared.
After they were whistleblowers, by the way, whistleblower laws in this city protect people like them. Nope, those laws were ignored and they were punished while at the IRS. They've now been promoted.
Yeah, they
under
were
the new leadership.
This is the feel. I mean, to me, this is the feel good story of the year because they weren't just ostracized; they were actively smeared. One of them, he identifies as a Democrat. He said this was not political. I'm not some right wing plant, and they were.
But he took his job seriously.
They were truly punished for what they did.
You're right. I'm not going to go so far as to say that's the feel good story because I'll go back to the headline. The feel good story of the day is that Hunter Biden will be stripped of his law license in D.C. And, of course, the overriding feel-good story of the day, Val Kilmer has passed away at the age of 65. It's 5:53.